Hi everyone, this is Arcadius and welcome back to Naval Creed. Today we'll be going over the HE secondaries for the French battleship Bart, or as I've renamed her, Clemenceau, and that's how I will be referring to her for the rest of the video. Now, Clemenceau has not really changed in any way since the video we first did on her. The only difference is obviously that her secondaries have changed, or at least the 6-inch secondaries have changed. They no longer fire armor piercing, they fire high explosive. The way I play the ship is a long-range sniper, or let me rephrase that. She can't be played as a long-range sniper with good shell velocity and good dispersion. Really good accuracy on the ship. However, I like to kind of brawl because of her really good rate of fire. Her secondaries, yes, they will hit targets, even though they only go up to 5 kilometers. But with HE, you're not really going to pen anything because at that kind of range, all your shells are going to be coming in at a sharp and flat trajectory. And so they're just going to hit the main belt armor and shatter accordingly. With armor piercing, the 6-inch, we're actually able to do decent damage on broadside targets, but with HE, they still just shatter. Unless it's a destroyer. If you come across a destroyer, though, at 5 kilometers, it's not really a good thing. What I play Clemenceau as, like I said, is I do like to brawl with her, or at least getting close to the enemy, but she also has really decent AA, and she can even equip an anti-air defense barrage, which is the only battleship that can do this. Missouri can equip something similar, but it's not exactly the same, so I'm not counting it. Add to that with the anti-air enhancement module to increase all anti-aircraft damages, and the captain crew skill to increase my AA range, I have the ship fully maxed out AA as possible. And I like to take down a lot of planes. So the secondary nerf doesn't really affect Clemenceau. Yes, you will get a lot of secondary hits, don't get me wrong. I haven't had a game yet today where I've had less than 200 secondary hits. But in terms of damage, not that much. There's even some games where I do like maybe 7,000 damage in secondaries, which is not a lot by no means. So let's toss her into a game and see what kind of game we can play today. Alright, let's see what kind of game we have today. We have a carrier, we have 2 Rostislavs, which are those Russian dreadnought battleships at tier 9, an Alsace, a Clemenceau, 2 Leans, an Alaska, and 2 Tashkents. So a little bit of everything. We have carrier, battleships, cruisers, and destroyers. So our secondaries are going to be good against Tashkents. They're going to do nothing against everything else. Even Taiho has enough broadsiding armor that I'd expect it to shatter my high explosive. I think it has like 4 inches of belt armor, which is enough to arm most armor-piercing shells, but is actually enough to protect it against high explosive shells. So yeah, secondaries are pretty much worthless on this ship now. But again, she's not really a secondary brawler. If you want something like that, you might as well go with like Alsace even, or Frede de Gros, or Illinois. Illinois is good as well. Surprisingly, Louisiana is actually pretty decent as well, especially against destroyers. Even Yamato, the 155mm guns, the 2 triple turrets, secondaries, still fire armor piercing on Yamato, so those make them extremely dangerous to even cruisers, honestly, and battleships. Tier 9 Hiraga, the casemates on the ship do fire armor piercing as well. For tier 9 for the Russians, Vladivostok and Rostislav, pretty much worthless. What else we have? The British have Lion and Monarch. They're good at setting fires, or at least the ones on Monarch are. But Lions are pretty much worthless as well. Alright, so we're seeing our first targets here. Both Leans. We have high explosive loaded, though I thought we had armor piercing loaded. Oh well. Gonna wait for... Let's see if we can actually nail this Tashkent from here. We have pretty good accuracy, even at long range. You can see that shell grouping is amazing. 3 shells, 1 fire, 6,700 damage. And we're just going to get in range to start using our secondaries. I do have health buffs and speed buffs applied, so do keep that in mind. Clemenceau can also equip a speed boost, but honestly, that just makes her no different than an Alzis. So I like to use the unique consumable of the Def AA, which kind of gives her a little bit more defense against carriers, which is also nice. Alright, one last round of high explosive, and we're switching to armor piercing. Now my secondaries are opening up on this Tashkent here. I actually think even those shattered, believe it or not, yeah, they're still shattering. Let's see if we can get the kill here. Nope, even the smaller one, there we go. The 6-inch high explosive did pen the Tashkent. So even on some destroyers, you still may not get a lot of damage with your smaller secondaries. You have to have the 6-inch ones to do the damage. Alright, we are shooting these cruisers, but like I said, the trajectories that these shells are coming in as are just really, really shallow and flat. So you're only going to hit the broadsiding ship itself. Highly doubtful you'll hit the superstructure where you need to hit. Alright, let's see if we can finish off some of these cruisers. Clemenceau is a very, very good cruiser killer. Even got a Citadel on a German cruiser, which is not an everyday occurrence. Alright, let's see what other targets we can finish off here after this lean. There we go. We have an Alzis. And the Taiho's over there. Let's see if we can work on some of these battleships first. Because we have the broadside of Alzis right now. We're going to have the broadside of one of the Rostislavs. Yep, there we go, Citadel. This ship is very good at punishing broadsides. If you show a broadside to Clemenceau, you will regret it. And very quickly, because she reloads way too fast to be ignored. Let's see if we can do the same thing against Rostislav here. Yep, got a Citadel. Yeah, none of these battleships really pose much of a threat to me right now, since I'm nose into all their guns. So even if they did decide to shoot at me, it would just kind of bounce off the nose. It's possible they can hit my superstructure and still do damage, but the chances of that are pretty much not possible, considering they're bots. If it was a player, it'd be a different story. But again, if it was a player, then I probably won't be rushing 3 of them at the same time. So we're just going to work over these battleships a little bit more here. I don't know which side of the island I want to go on. I think I'm going to go on the left side here, which will leave me exposed for a short amount of time while I try and get to cover. And then Alzis looks like she might take advantage of that. But I give her 2 Citadels and she doesn't get to fire. Okay, cool. Now I have been close enough to be in secondary range for a majority of the time here. Not even like really close. I'm at almost 5 kilometers from these ships. So it's the largest trajectory arc that I can get for these secondaries, and they're still just hitting the superstructure, well, the belt armor, not the superstructure. And now we're just going to finish off these battleships one by one here as they come around this corner. We got a nose in. And then aim for the waterline. Oh, that was actually pretty disappointing. I don't know where half my shells went. But we do reload really quickly. We should be able to finish up this Alzis at least. There we go, there's one. What are you doing? You're looking at me, that's not good. Through the island? Really? Okay. Well, anyways, you're still pretty much dead. Yeah, my secondaries are getting hits, just no damage. Oh, we got a fire at least, that's nice. Alright, there you go, you're down. Alright, angle back in towards this Clemenceau. Though I doubt we're going to be able to do much damage, considering the angle she's at. No thanks. I'm going to switch to high explosive here. Though 5 pens was actually pretty decent. And then we're actually going to go towards the right because the carrier, well, we're not really in any kind of position to shoot the carrier. And there she goes. Okay, next. So I'm assuming that my team should be able to take care of the Taiho before I get back into any kind of position to do damage to her. So we might not be able to show off our AA or even use our consumables, but that's alright. I still feel like we'll have a couple chances to shoot her, but maybe not. We can go cap C at least. But I have 317 secondary hits, so we'll be able to see what kind of damages I was able to inflict. Though I do admit I was kind of surprised that even the smaller secondaries on the side couldn't do damage to that Tashkent. Tashkent is pretty much like a scout cruiser, so I would assume she has actually a little bit of armor. But if you go up against something like a Fletcher or a Akazuki, I think it would do damage regardless. Tashkent just might be an exception. But still, even then I was surprised. But yeah, those 6-inch secondaries, they're very good against destroyers, don't get me wrong. Against some cruisers if you get the right angle. But everything else, it's pretty much trash. And Taiho's taking a bunch of torpedoes. So yeah, we're just going to sit tight and cap the space for a little bit more experience here. Let's see, what kind of ships do we have left? We have a Rostislav, just taking torpedoes. There's another Rostislav. There's a Taiho. Is that it? Yep, that is it. Okay. Yeah, well, none of these battleships have a lot of AA defense, so the enemy Taiho is not going to lose many aircraft. But she's focusing on the battleships, which means our carrier is able to get free strikes on her. And so we're going to cap this base here pretty soon, and then the game will be over. And so we capped. And the next wave of torpedo bombers from the carrier should finish her off. But yeah, just as a recap, you have really good main guns. They're not very powerful. You're going to be overpowered by every other battleship in this tier. But they are very accurate. They do reload quite quickly. Your AA defense, we didn't get a chance to show it here, but if you pop that defensive AA, you'll be able to take down quite a few planes. You won't be able to save yourself from entire squadrons. They'll still get a strike through. But even when you have that defensive AA activated, you'll be able to scatter the squadron, so it'll increase your chances of not being hit, or at least not being hit as hard. Your speed, pretty good. Maneuverability is also pretty good as well. Nothing exactly special about it though. Though you could also equip the speed boost and go close to, actually past 40 knots for me. But all of this can do the same exact thing with even more guns and better secondaries and, well, maybe not better AA actually. But yeah, so in terms of secondaries, let's take a look. We did 343,000 damage, 4 ships were sunk, 104 shell hits, 4 aircraft shot down, 8 citadels, 5 fires, 1 module destroyed, 1 capped base, 2 defended caps, and 317 secondary hits. Okay, so 317, only 12,000 damage. Now, if I had 317 secondary hits with, let's say, a Bismarck or something like that, or even in Illinois, even a Yamato, I would still expect higher damage numbers. So in terms of a secondary build or any kind of anything with your secondaries, not really worth it. But then again, the HE nerf didn't really help her either. Like I said, at those trajectories, if I had armor piercing, I would have been doing at least maybe 2,000 damage to those battleships each time these guns shot. So yeah, it does take a bit of the damage away from Clemenceau, but you don't really need to be that close to battleships. You can just stay at range and bow tank and use your accuracy to be very good. So it does impact her, but not if you're playing her correctly, or at least one of the ways you can play her. So with that, I will wrap up today's video. If you like the video, make sure you like and subscribe for further content. And join me tomorrow while we go over the next battleship in line, which is Alsace. So again, thank you and take care.